This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. The time being 4:45 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting of September 30th, 2021 to order. Before we get started, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see, read the minutes, the public minutes of September 23rd to the floor for discussion.
September 23rd?
September, did I say September 23rd? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
No, well, no, because I was looking at September 9th. I just happened to be looking there when you said, so I was like, oh.
I think I had one.
On the page 2 of 5, halfway under Adam Melu energy auction. I thought we changed that to Tim could sign.
We did.
All right, because it, oh, the second one, all right, never mind. I didn't read all the way through.
On page 2 of 5, it's correct in the way that it's written, and I have absolutely no objections if we leave it like that, but I thought there was a discussion on also under the hawkers and peddlers paragraph that the language needing to enforce the hawkers and peddlers ordinance to issue a cease and desist, but also the ability to, we talked a little bit about if the hawkers and peddlers, what if it came in on a Monday, all the paperwork were done, giving the ability for Gail to doing a temporary or looking it over. I just don't know if we wanted to add that. I thought it was important. It's part of the process, but I'm okay if we leave it out.
I have no objection.
So Pat, you're just saying that Gail could give temporary approval until we see it on Thursday?
Well, the whole intent on bringing the hawkers and peddlers was, number one, for them to be more accountable for businesses and so that we could enforce it, but also so that we can ensure businesses, can come in, and we want to be able to serve businesses that want to come in and do business in our town.
So it's basically temporary approval until we approve it on Thursday.
Right, so if the situation comes in on Friday, I mean, nobody knows hawkers and peddlers like Gail does, and so if they came in and had all the paperwork and all dotted all the i's and crossed the t's, then, I mean, we are the ultimate authority, and if something came up on Thursday and said, okay, I don't think this is a fly, but I don't know, that would be absolute rare that would happen, but I would say that why wouldn't we be able to do that?
Conditional approval.
Conditional.
I
I think that's,
remember the conversation.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's the
did
word
we
that I'm
have
trying to
an act-
grasp
We
it.
didn't have an actual vote.
no, we did not have an action,
No,
it was a discussion. It was a discussion.
I would be in favor of that.
Yeah.
So,
Because that is what you're speaking to, being able to be business friendly, but no.
But right now, we're just talking about the minutes, and that's what we were
Yeah.
discussing in the minutes was part of that, and I'm not, I think we were all talking at the same time, so I'm not sure that was real clear about that purpose.
So in this meeting today, are you saying you want to give her the authority to give a conditional approval?
contingent on us signing it the following Thursday.
We can't make that decision right now because we're talking about the minutes, but I think afterwards we could, but in the minutes,
I get it.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? In the minutes, we did talk about it. Do we want to add that into the minutes, or do we just want to leave it as it is the question? And I mean, I'm fine with leaving it as it is and then talk about it a little bit later in length and then just talk about it because, I mean, we makes life a little bit easier. Or maybe have Gail weigh in on it. If we were saying, let's go ahead and do this, maybe she might not want to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'd say leave it out for now. We'll talk about it later. Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Go ahead, second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on the public minutes of September 23rd? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. The non-public minutes of September 23rd. Oh, geez. Super static. He's a few minutes behind. He'll stop for gas.
Correction on, oh, we only have one page. Where it says Selectman Pyra moved, second by Selectman Ruggles. I recused myself.
Yes, you did.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as corrected.
Jessman second.
Motion in 2 seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next up, Land Use Coordinator Lee Ann Moynihan with a department update. Thank you. Oops. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is this?
have 2 vacancies
Well, we
and
have,
an alternate.
are you talking about planning board?
Mhm.
Yeah. We only have 5 planning board members, which includes the selectmen ex officio. So we might have one more. I have one more person who said they're interested in coming on board. So hopefully, he was sick this week. So he hopefully will get his paperwork into me and we can bring it forward to the select board at the next meeting. So we should have one more planning board member, which would make 6, which would be nice because sometimes having only 3 board members is kind of a little silly to be making decisions on these large developments with just 3 members. So, so hopefully we'll get at least one more member, always looking for more members. Our caseload continues to grow. As you see, we're up to 16 in September. It's higher than we've ever had in the past, I don't know, back 5 years. So we're pretty busy. We did approve U-Haul and Eversource this past week. We already have a couple new applications for next month, so we continue to work. We have Total Landscaping. They were approved actually this week. So
They
that
did
one,
get approved.
yeah, so they could move up to approved. I printed this before the meeting.
Where's 477?
That's the old Tilton nursery.
Oh, okay. I thought it was named something else on their sign.
Yeah, it says Better Homes, I think, is a
It
real
used to be-
estate.
Yeah,
It was a real
used to be the
estate.
real estate office.
There's still a real
After
estate
Tilton.
office in there. I think.
Over there. I'm thinking, I
side.
was thinking it's the other place where on the corner. On the corner.
This is on the corner of Silver Lake.
I got you now. All right, yep.
They've already started to improve that site.
They were over there today doing something.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Thank you.
American Materials.
So zoning board, we are also down a member. We were up to a full board of 5, but we have 1 vacancy. That's Scott Davis resigned last month or weeks ago. So we have a vacancy for zoning. Anyone knows anyone? And also we are up to 19 zoning board cases with a few pending. Anyone has any questions on any of those? Those are all pretty basic setback and lot line adjustment request in zoning. For, you have a question?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Under pending under zoning, Charles Sargent is the same address as another one that says withdrawn on the planning.
Well, it's withdrawn from planning because he applied for zoning and planning, but it's been pending so long in zoning that planning just took him off the docket. It's getting ridiculously long. He has a major wetland issue to resolve in zoning.
Yeah.
So he'll have to come back and he'll renotice and he'll have to have a new plan anyway, once that gets resolved with DES, if it gets resolved. So it's still pending on zoning, but it's been taken off the planning agenda for now.
Thank you.
Building permits were up to 224, $31,000 is where we're at with permits. Inspections are growing. He's up to about 15 a week now, about 5 a day. He does, and he has started just this month doing the housing standards. They did 1 this month.
How's he like his new ride?
He doesn't have a new ride yet, but
Oh.
he asked if it was the Volvo, and I said, no.
Kevin's fixed it. It's ready
That's
to
good.
go.
Oh, look, there's thank you, Kevin. There's the
Just
fixer upper
stick the
right there.
sign on the Volvo and see what he does.
Did he fix the Volvo or the Ford?
He did say that. He said, I love Volvos.
Genius.
Once I put 253,000 miles on that one, you can have it.
Yeah. Well, we're very, very thankful for the new ride. That'll be a really big upgrade for our department. Assessing 106 deeds and changes since the first of the year. Actually, that's down. I don't show last year, but I did look today and it's down by, like, we had over 200 at this time last year. I don't know what that means. But yes.
People are not selling because they can't find people.
Right, because there aren't as many
Homes to buy.
properties to buy, yeah.
Right.
Or they're not building because of the high cost of
Yeah.
goods or
Yeah.
lack of goods.
Lack of goods. But I mean, still quite a few for this town, 160 turnovers, but yeah, I think a lot more renovations, tear downs. I think we've had, just this month, we've got 6 demos. So a lot of those cottages on the lake are being demoed and put in nicer homes. So I guess that's good for the town, that those are being upgraded. Complaints are down a little bit, have settled down. There was a few still pending items. We still have Brook Road, which hopefully is resolved, but we haven't quite closed that yet. We still need to do another inspection, but we are in communication every day about that. So hopefully that will be resolved before the winter. Cumberland sign violation is closed. They had a sign that was blocking the line of sight there, as well as they had some old signs. There is an ordinance that once a business is vacant, they're supposed to remove that old sign, and we sent them a letter along with that when we sent the letter for the sign by the road, and they actually took down that dragon or pizza or whatever it was. They took it down, which was nice. First student is still outstanding. There's some lighting issues over there, but they are aware of it and they're working on it, and it's supposed to bring some shields and redirecting those lights. So that's hasn't been closed, but it's being worked on. The welcome sign, which I know was an issue here at the board, one for maintenance for mowing, which they have agreed is their responsibility, and they have taken that over. There was some issues with the light. Some of the lights on the welcome sign, I guess, were out, and they put in a work order, and that's going to be fixed. The electrical work there is supposed to be fixed. And lastly, they agreed to allow us to decorate the sign for holidays, for fall or Christmas. We're allowed to put anything we like there. So they agreed to that. So that's closed. DES, that's the violation that's associated with Mr. Sargent's work over there. That's still outstanding with DES. And I have an auto body shop over behind O'Reilly's, right near the new Tilton, that has some outstanding junk and registered vehicles, and a scheduled inspection for tomorrow. Housing standard, we've started our housing standard meetings. We had a meeting in July and August. The next scheduled meeting is December 10th. That's resulted in them starting up again. They hadn't done any housing inspections since COVID. So those are starting up again with Catherine and Tim and Chuck. We have hazardous mitigation meeting has been ongoing, and the state funding project with Caleb Hill Road. We've been doing engineering qualification selection. I did list the 2 educations that happened in August, which was a zoning amendments webinar that I attended, and Janice attended an iWorks training online session. And we've had 2 Lakes Region Planning Commissions meeting. One for the TAC is coming up in October, and we had one Monday for the commissioners. That's it for that. I did have a couple other quick items I want to talk about if no one has any questions on the report. Report. Okay, have time to do this real quick portion of that.
There you go.
I had talked briefly to the board when I did the evaluations for staff. I had talked about an inter-municipal agreement with another town to cover us for code enforcement, which is becoming more and more common in a lot of the small towns, even the cities, to have coverage, because if they go on vacation, you really need someone to do those inspections. So in Hooksett, we had that agreement with a couple of the local towns, Bow, and here it is going to help that Chuck is a prior employee of Franklin, and so Franklin currently has some municipal agreements with some other towns. I think with Boscawen, Salisbury, I think in Canterbury maybe. So I do have a draft of it. I can leave it now. You can look at it, and maybe another meeting we can talk about it more if you don't want to. It really, there's no cost involved. It's really just like it's like mutual aid. They just fortunately, we're the little town and they're the big city. We'll be relying on them more than they will really call upon us.
So it will be just Franklin, it won't be,
It would just be us and Franklin, even though they have it with other towns, it wouldn't be
Right.
us with other towns. It would just be a two-way. So.
and who drew this up? Was it?
It's from one of their other ones. Chuck actually had it. I think it's the one of them with Bosquen, maybe. I don't remember which one it's
So-
copied from. I made some changes and put our town in.
Did Chuck go out and seek this, or did you go out and ask for the mutual?
We talked about it. He asked Franklin if they would entertain us, and they would. So I said, well, let me bring it to the selectmen first before we go any further. And that's as far as any discussion with Franklin has gone, just that they would entertain having such an agreement with us. And this is just like their agreements with the other towns. So again, we don't have to go through it detail tonight because I know you have a lot of things to get to, but if you look at it and maybe mark it up or give me feedback, and the sooner we can get it, the better too. So if he does go out or we lose him or whatever, we have some backup, which would be great.
It's an awesome idea.
Just the biggest change I see so far,
Oh,
change it to City of Franklin.
yeah.
They might get offended by that.
You think?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, they might. I don't know.
Other couple of quick things. The only other thing I have is, I know it might come up a little later. I told Tim I would just talk about it since I was here. The plotter that I put in the budget. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We did talk about it.
Okay. So I don't know if you have any questions about it. It is something that a lot of planning departments have. We don't have anything to make large copies. You know, we have a lot of old plans that falling apart and you can't even copy or reproduce. You can use them to make copies of those. You can sell, obviously, if residents come in for copies of septic, we can't really do that right now either. We have to either reduce it so tiny. You can, you sell those copies. We use it for GIS, use it for, I don't know, we used them a lot. We have, we use them for presentation when we start in economic development. Any of these presentations, we have these boards around. We're always going out to companies to have them do that. It's just a tool that is used every day. I know that I did talk to Johanna, and she would also find it very useful. So she's pretty excited of having something like that. I think if we really had to, we could reach out to SOAR if you wanted them to, take on some of that cost. We didn't really talk about that, but she did say that was something that they would entertain. So
What's the total cost of it again?
well, black and white, from what I saw, they've come down quite a bit, probably around 2,500 for black and white, maybe 4,000 for color. Color's also, is nice if you're going to use it for any presentations, but I mean, even just having a black and white would be nice.
And do we have a yearly software cost or license cost to
No,
anything?
it's like
It's
no.
just a copier.
Right, it would have to be maybe a maintenance agreement. A lot of these machines have maintenance agreements, which I'm not sure, I didn't get that far in them in the cost. I could ask Tim, but no, there's no software or anything. It's like a copy machine, only it's a big plotter. It can print big plans, it can print large maps, it can replicate, it can, instead of going down to a company, get our maps copied, that type of thing.
Did you ask Tim where we could find the money to get this?
Tim's online, right?
Tim was there.
He was there.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I was listening. Yeah, that's something that we're working on, and as we get closer to end of year, we'll probably be able to make a recommendation. I think there will be the ability to, if the board wants to acquire it, have the money so we don't have to raise and appropriate it for next year.
Yeah, he had said he thought he could do it out of this year. So.
Yeah, I'd like to do it out of this year's funds if we could, but what's your recommendation between the black and white and the color? Are we going to use the color more often, or what? I mean, I don't want to, it's a difference of $1,000, maybe a little over $1,000 for the difference. Are we going to buy the black and white and wish we had bought the the color in a year or two.
I mean, obviously color would be really nice to have, but it depends how many presentations we do, what we're gonna do with economic development. We use it a lot in our, when we're doing economic development and doing presentations. And color's always nice, you get that definition versus even in anything you do, right? Even just letterhead now is in color. You know, it makes things nicer. I was just trying not to be a little more cost effective. I was going to start with black and white, but obviously if we have the money within a year, color would be the way to go. So.
Something to consider.
Scott?
Leanne, do you think over the course of a few years, you might be, if we went with color, you'd be able to save $1,000 extra in terms of having to go and have color things printed? I'm just asking for off the cuff, if you think that the savings over 3-4 years would be appropriate.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if,
I would think Kevin might even have some use. I really hadn't had a chance to reach out to Kevin about it. Like I said, I talked to Sewer. Have to throw Kevin under the bus, but I don't know if with roads and some of the things he's doing, whether that would be of any use to him. Yeah. Yeah, I would think all departments could be, we don't have anything in the whole town like that. Any questions? Thanks, Kevin.
I think perhaps maybe if we reached out to Sewer and see if they would be willing to contribute some, so that, and then look at what, if we could charge for people that came in and asked. I mean, that would be just a nominal, wouldn't be.
Right, I think you could definitely charge. We charge now for copies, so it'd be the same way. We just have to come up with a price. Obviously, it's not gonna be $1 a page if you're, plotting a large document. But like I said, just those septic plans that people ask for frequently, be nice for the public to be able to get those copies of septic plans printed here. A lot of times we actually let people take our plans out. They sign them out, or they, sign us and make them leave a license, and they take them down to Staples and copy them. But we really shouldn't be letting the plans out like that, but we really don't have, see that, or I go out and copy them. So we have been doing that. I understood it was past practice here, and we had to do that in other towns because we had the plotters, but, so that would be nice for the public too, to have that
I'd rather
available
our
to them.
plans not go.
John, you had a question?
Can you find out what the price is per copy plus the annual cost?
The maintenance costs and yeah.
Well, I'm looking more at the supplies for, I know plotters, like if you get the color and you don't use it a bunch, that it kind of dries out.
Yeah.
It's like an inkjet, but its uses,
Right,
well, like less pencil.
right, yeah, well, yeah,
So if they're
that's
not
why it's called a
used-
plotter, yeah.
Yes.
So I'll get the supply costs as well,
Supply and, like, what it costs.
and maintenance.
How many times a year or a month or a week are you running to Staples to make copies?
I don't know, like
And how long?
every couple of weeks, somebody's in for something.
But
or
how
we-
long are you there? Are you go there and you wait and it takes a half hour?
I let the people go most of the time, take their own. I don't go that much. I do go for tax maps. I have gone over there. Yeah, we drop them off, we bring them back.
So
Wait.
you're going there, you drop off, and then you're coming back, and then
you
you're
go
going back over there,
Right.
pick up. So there's that cost of your time
Right.
and the cost of the copies. And if Sewer did not participate in the purchase, would we be able to bill Sewer every time they use it?
I don't know how that works.
Most
between-
certainly, it's
Would
separate,
that,
yeah, separate budget, separate.
they have a separate budget? Why
So maybe
should
it'll be
they-
a benefit just to buy in at the beginning, then you not have to worry about. And it's convenience. It's here and Sewer's right here, so, we'd probably be the biggest users, would be, for stuff. Anyway,
We've
okay,
got some
anyone-
research to do.
yeah, we'll check that out. And,
Well, you didn't get it out, would know.
I don't know.
you don't get it if you don't ask, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You don't have to answer those.
That it?
All good. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that. Oh, what do we got here?
You're
Something that needs to go back that way.
All right. All right, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Important things.
Okay.
Jeannie, even though it's not 5:30, can we move that ahead?
Why don't you?
Or do you want to wait till 5:30?
Because that's what we told the betters.
Okay. Yeah, so in case someone shows up. Should we see what our visitor is here for? Mr.
Who? Kevin?
Yeah, or is he here for that?
He is here for that, and Tim, you could always take Tim. I don't know what Tim said.
Please
Go quickly.
go quickly.
Just remember, can you do it in 15 minutes?
Yes.
Budget and
Well, so in your packets, you'll find an update from me. So I'm still working on updating our utilities within the budget. I did get an update from the moderator. And so that moderator line is going to come down. But I have to work through all those details before I give you a new refresh of the budget. But in the meeting with the chief of police on the 16th, the chief had presented some budget line changes, and the board asked that we check with the budget committee to see what their feedback was. So it was consolidating three different, actually a total of 5 lines into 3, or 4 lines into 3 rather. And the budget committee didn't have any issues with it. So we had a discussion about it. They were fine with it. So I would recommend going ahead with that.
No issues.
No issues.
No, surprisingly, I was there last night. So it was,
I mean, the only discussion that came up was regarding the miscellaneous line. And as long as we can provide a detail of what has gone into the miscellaneous line, they're fine with that. So,
yeah, the question was on the miscellaneous, how Tim, when he puts the budget in the annual report, how he puts a little brief explanation. And he would, as long as he puts that in there, that miscellaneous is also advertising and immunizations.
immunizations, right.
They were okay with that.
I move that we consolidate the following budget lines in the police budget. In each case, the budget and expenditures will be moved as follows. Consolidate PD drug investigations, object code 650 into PD investigation expense, object code 645. Consolidate PD pistol range expense, object code 655 into PD weapons expense, object code 640. Consolidate PD immunization and PD advertising, object code 665 and 350 respectively, into PD miscellaneous expense, object code 385.
Ruggles second.
Motion a second. Any other discussion?
John?
Done.
Yeah, one of the things, pistol range expense, that's more of like a training thing. And the cost for what it costs to go to the range and to do that as opposed to a weapons expense. And I feel it's kind of, it's better to see what's being spent at the range and how much that's being spent. All of these things, I understand that, you can go and ask for a detail, but you'd have to ask for it, and then you'd have to print out a separate whole list. The drug investigation, I thought that was the money that we put in there every year for buys. Is that?
I think originally that's how it was used, but it has been infrequently used over the years. They don't require that in the same form.
And what it was is we budgeted a certain amount of money. I think we put in like $100.
Right.
That was used to purchase drugs and buys to kind of,
In the whole
set
time,
people up.
I've been here, I think it was used twice. So it could be.
And what could happen is now it could be used investigation expense. How much are we going to be investing into that? I knew there was a specific reason why it had to be separate.
Well, so I think in any of these, when I look through the budget and I look at, some of these lines and evaluate them, because I often think, gosh, why are we having to look at this one small line? And sometimes I do agree with you, there is a good reason, but other times, unless it really informs the board or the citizenry of something important to the budget that they would want to know. And I don't recall exactly how the chief characterized the consolidation of the weapons and range expense, but if I remember correctly, it was because they're all part and parcel, because the weapons expense incorporates more than just ammo. It's ammo, it's repairs, it's new handles, it's all kinds of things related to the weapons. It's all managed by one person in the PD, as well as the firearms training. That's all incorporated together. So, and as you know, they've been successful in using other PDs, ranges, and things of that sort. So, without having the chief here to go through that rationale again, that's from what I recall, and perhaps.
So presently, what do we put in for like pistol range expense every year?
It's $500.
$500?
Yeah.
Okay, and they've been using other PDs. So now that $500 is going reducing that from a training amount, or from that line, it's just going to get added in. So the weapons expense line actually going up by $500.
That's correct. And
as opposed to if we're not using it, we should be cutting it out of the budget.
So the challenge there is that using other PDs isn't guaranteed, and getting free use of ranges isn't guaranteed. So we have to budget for what we think the expense will be based on the number of people we have, the number of times we would have to go, and apply a reasonable factor to it so that we're not budgeting 100% of the time that they would have to go do their long guns, their handguns, and different types of range work, but that we apply a factor to it that says, we know we're going to have some times when we're going to be able to use other facilities, but we have to have a base by which, if we can't, we're going to have to pay for it, and we have to budget some for it. But it just brings into light, and I'll give you the example of in the IT budget, in the supplies line. I mean, there's everything from toners to cables to drums to all sorts of things in there. So, I mean, we could have a separate toner line, we could have a separate drum line, so.
Well, I think that's a little different.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that to me, it's really the threshold by which it helps you govern. So if there's information in these lines that helps the Board of Selectmen, provide oversight on the budget and inform the budget committee in terms of, what they need to look at for the next year, then I would say keep them. But if it is, I think the chief had used the term that they're infrequently used and but need to be budgeted, but in case they have to be used, but they're infrequently used, and she felt as though they really were part and parcel, they really fell into the same category, and that's why she wanted to consolidate them. But it really is, it's really up to, I mean, if these are things that you feel are important for oversight and budgeting purposes, then keep them. But otherwise, the budget committee didn't seem to have any issue with it, with the one exception of just being able to get the detail of the miscellaneous line and having it noted in the budget.
What's that?
I know, I just two
Okay.
comments on how I
Yep.
feel.
Anyone else? We did have a motion on that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Hey,
Okay.
Motion passes.
I will make those changes, and I'll make sure that where we can, we note, what is in those lines so that all visibility is lost to it. The only other thing I wanted to just bring you up to speed on the DRA and tax rate preparation, we're getting close to that. So you'll be seeing more from that from me before the end of October. I would anticipate we'd be setting the tax rate either on the 21st or 28th of October. Town hall audiovisual equipment, I've included the quote here for you. And if you like, I can resume my report at 6 o'clock, once we reach this point. But this is, just to remind you, this is the quote for this space up here. This is for essentially the same equipment we have at the EOC in this space, but making use of some of our existing equipment as well. And I can go through what that entails, what it'll look like, and what we're anticipating here at 6 o'clock. And then lastly, there's because the Board of Selectmen are agents for the Senior Center Expendable Trust Fund, there have been some expenditures for the bus that we'll probably need to do it again at the end of the year if there are further expenditures for the bus, but take this opportunity to do a transfer from that fund. So I'll need a motion on that. But again, that's in this, and I will pick back up at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon. All right. So I wait 4 more minutes?
Tim finished early.
I don't know. We have 4 minutes to go, Tim. Jeez.
Well, I can probably take up a minute here, if it's okay to. Interesting. I was gonna make the motion to move.
Much better, Pat.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion that we move as agents for the Senior Center Expendable Trust Fund. We instruct the trustees of the trust fund to remit $578.24 for the purposes of reimbursing items required for the operation of the senior bus.
Justin, second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. So since we have a couple minutes, we have to figure out how we're going to do the opening process of the opening of the bids.
Open it, read it, and someone has to record it.
So we're going to be open, announce, and then we'll provide copies to everyone.
So I think what Eric was suggesting is that he'll open them, read the bid amounts and who the bidders are. But this board will probably want
To look at.
a week to look at it because you haven't seen it
Correct.
till that next week. And you may want to interview the bidders.
Yep.
After you've gotten a chance to look at it. So.
Correct.
All right. Gonna give it, we got 2 more minutes there, but should we just go?
I think you're fine.
All right,
I think you're fine.
all right. So I say who it's from?
Yes.
All right, first,
And the amount, yeah.
this first one, the envelope is marked Menard Waste System, solid waste bid. Is there a letter opener? I know someone said that one time. There was.
So is that the silver one in the back? No?
Catherine always used that one.
That's right.
Oh, wait, it's not, so it's not as sealed.
So while Eric is opening the bid, just a reminder that the bid specification called for a bid for trash and recycling and one without recycling. And also a contract based on 5 years and a contract based on 6 years.
All right. You ready? I can open it?
Yeah.
All right. Look at that, Menard Waste Systems. Gotta figure out where it is. Oh, boy. Let's see. What part am I reading? There's like a chart here.
Look for the biggest number.
No, I'm looking for the smallest number, really. I've never done this part before, so. That's insurance. There's a chart here that has annual, it has, says year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, annual total, per root cost recycling collection, per root cost recycling disposal, per root cost solid waste, per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling.
Look at the top, the total figure on the bottom. Is there a total figure?
No, it's broken out year by year. Let me just see, based on,
There's a lot of different ifs.
sorry,
We'll look for the numbers specifically for.
I'm just looking here, detail. Holidays. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. And the schedule. So I'm going to read these numbers. It doesn't have a total number.
Okay,
So it says year 1, annual, okay, so annual total. Year 1, $356,500. Per root cost recycling collection, $96,000. Per root cost recycling disposable, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $227,000. Per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $316,000. Year 2, annual total, $368,977.50. Per root cost recycling collection, $99,360. Per root cost recycling disposable, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $234,945. Per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $327,060. Year 3, annual total, $381,891.71. Per root cost recycling collection, $102,837.60. Per root cost recycling disposal, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $243,168.08. Per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $338,507.10. Year 4, annual total, $395,257.92. Per root cost recycling collection, $106,436.92. Per root cost recycling disposal, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $251,678.96. Per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $350,354.85. Year 5, annual total, $409,091.95. Per root cost recycling collection, $110,162.21. Per root cost recycling disposal, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $260,487.72. Per root cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $362,617.27. Year 6, annual total, $423,410.17. Per root cost recycling collection, $114,017.89. Per root cost recycling disposal, $33,500. Per root cost solid waste, $269,604.79. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, $375,308.87. And the $33,500 is based on 335 tons at $100 per ton. Bernard will charge Tilton actual gate rate each month not to exceed $100 per ton. September gate rate was $52.48. And then it has the cost of residential recycling containers. And then it has, that's it.
Tim can make all sense of that.
Yeah, you got that, Tim? All right. Next
It's
one.
having a coronary over there.
I knew it was coming.
It is the good tape. Let's see, this is Casella, Town of Tilton curbside collection contract for residential solid waste and curbside collection of residential commingled single stream recyclables. They used the good tape on this one. It looks like there's copies. Should I pass these out or read them first?
For that much money, we all should have a copy.
There's only one color copy though. They bought the plotter that was color. Right.
Is that recycled paper?
Can you pass out the copies so we can follow along with it?
Sure. I'm gonna try to find the page with the biggest number on it.
Do we have to pay to recycle over the first 10 pages?
All right, here we go. It's looks like it's a 5-year. It's for the collection of curbside recycling and solid waste. Please show annual costs for each year of the contract and estimated per route cost of collection. All right. So annual, this is weekly collection of solid waste, every other week collection of recyclables. Is everyone on the same page?
Yeah.
It's at the bottom, page 9 of 11. Year 1, annual total, $245,000. Per route cost solid waste, $162,500. Per route cost recycling, $82,500. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, no bid. Year 2, annual total, $257,250. Per route cost solid waste, $170,625. Per route cost recycling, $86,625. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, no bid. Year 3, annual total, $270,112.50. Per route cost solid waste, $179,156.25. Per route cost recycling, $90,956.25. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, no bid. Year 4, annual total, $283,618.13. Per route cost solid waste, $188,114.06. Per route cost recycling, $95,504.06. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, no bid. Year 5, annual total, $297,799.03. Per route cost solid waste, $197,519.77. Per route cost recycling, $100,279.27. Per route cost for solid waste only, no curbside recycling, no bid. Cost of residential recycling containers. Let's see, is that all I have to read on that one? Different authority. This is the original.
So you all have a copy and I have a copy.
Yeah, I'll switch my copy for yours. Because this has like a gold seal document, so.
If you'll give me the other document back, I'll make copies.
Right.
Make sure that everyone gets a copy.
You pass that down to Jeannie.
I'll make sure Kevin and Tim both get copies.
Can I switch this copy for yours?
That's it, just the two?
What's that? That's it?
And there were no others.
No others. For the record, there were only 2. All right.
So I think the expectation would be the.
Couple weeks.
Yeah, couple weeks.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot to digest.
A little bit there,
And
yes.
it may be that after the board looks at this, they may want to have you back and ask questions.
Yeah, of course. We'll be able to let it know.
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks for showing up.
You got it.
Thank you. All right. All right. I guess we'll go back to Tim.
Let's go.
He's getting ready to recline.
Yeah. It's just taking it all in. A lot to take in.
I gave you the envelope.
Oh, and it had the.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, they both, just, I don't have the copy I gave you, so Tim took that one, so.
And I think
I gave Tim mine.
Yeah, I have, Kevin has the one you passed down
Okay.
for Jeannie.
So Kevin, when you're done, give me some.
Just scan it to me, whatever, it's probably easier to read down.
Yeah, I'll make sure they get
Those
PDF.
are some big numbers I had to read.
Did a nice job.
Yes.
All my math teachers from elementary school, don't say and.
All right, so getting back to my report, I believe the last thing was the audiovisual quote. So if you recall, we discussed the quote for this room back in, gosh, what seemed like a year ago, but I think it was only May or June. We had reported to the board that we had submitted for a FEMA grant for reimbursement for the expenses for the EOC equipment that we put in all the equipment for the audiovisual over there. And there was also the opportunity to put in for some overtime as well. That all appears to be moving forward and should be approved shortly. That's just under $82,000. But even beyond that, and one of the reasons why that EOC equipment qualifies is that the ability to hold remote meetings and conduct business remotely is a key component of this, of the FEMA qualification. So that providing that same setup in this room to where it's more usable and accessible for people and has greater bandwidth and capability, and adds to the interaction with citizens that aren't able to or don't want to attend in person due to the pandemic. That's why we're able to spend those monies, and that's why we're getting reimbursed that money for the EOC expenses. So not only do those fall under that FEMA, but they would also qualify under the ARPA monies as well. So we're looking at a quote, and hopefully this will not have changed. It's just under $30,000 for this room. So what that includes, and if you recall, Director Duval was going to be making a new table out of the wood from the tree that's going to be taken down with a live edge, and I'm sure it will be expertly crafted, as is everything that he does. And embedded in that table will be our existing microphones. So those will be all neatly, fixed in place for 7 locations within that U-shaped table. And then in addition to that, there will be not only a different TV and stand that's wired into the system, but also a podium that has a rack within it. So it has all the rack equipment that we would normally have in an IT room, which exists over in the other building. And also a microphone there, and that's where everything would be run for, say, any of the meetings, similar to what we do at the EOC. So there's a little, if you've ever seen the little touch screen that controls the, where the video goes, which audio is on, that sort of thing, that would also be at the podium. In addition, it has a fold-out table there for a document camera, which we can integrate a document camera down the road. It's not included in this quote, but if somebody wanted to project up on the screen, by putting a plan underneath it so that everyone could see it clearly, that could be easily done. It's all set up for that. We would just have to have the appropriate camera to do it. Speaking of a screen, there'd be a downcast projector up on this wall. So the projector itself would sit above where the video would appear on the wall, and the table would be over here, and the camera would be coming from above the entryway of the land use office, observing the room, and can be moved in the room too, so that if you do, just as we do in the other location, if you do swearing-ins up here and you want it in a certain place, we'll redirect the camera to that area for those things. So this makes use of the existing microphones we have, plus in addition, there's a new multiplexer for all the microphones because it's gonna be taking in both wireless and wired, and there'll be a separate wired mic similar to one of these, one of our own on the podium, and then there'll be a wireless lavalier like what we have at the other building, so that's the one with the clip, and then there'll be a separate mic that we use for the audience over in the other room here, and those will be on different channels. So the audio has 10 different mic channels available to it, and we would be using all 10 of them. So that's what this quote entails. Some of the equipment has currently a 14-week lead time. And unfortunately, that is just part and parcel of supply chain goings on right now. I mean, there's so many things like that, but by approving it, we can lock in the prices, and that's my hope, that we can get started with this. And I'm sure you have questions, but this is what we discussed, month or so ago.
John, did I see your hand go up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate spending money, but I think, you said that we weren't looking at the document thing. One of the biggest things is when we're online or other people online, they can't see the documents that people are talking about. And in this building, we do a lot with zoning and planning. And for people, if they're having to do it, over the camera and not be able to see the documents that it's a real drawback. I really think it's something that we need if we're going to go that route.
Yeah, it just would not come from these people. So we would just have to procure a document camera. possibly I'd have to do the research for it, but the monies that we're getting for reimbursement, the AV portion alone is $56,000. So this quote here is 29 and change, just under 30,000. So I would expect, I'd be surprised if it were more than a few $1,000s to be able to do that. But I also thought it was important. I had talked to the land use coordinator about it as well, because the amount of plants that are used here. And also there's a portion of training too. If anybody took part in those Honda planning and zoning meetings, we were able to blow things up, blow the plans up. It's just you have to make sure you have the plans in place so that we can do that for people remotely. A lot of times people come in with something and can't do it on the fly. So a document camera could allow that better than, otherwise you have to just make sure we have a plan for it. So.
Pat, Joe? I have a quick question. There's a 65-inch commercial flat panel display. So what would happen to this display here?
So this, essentially this setup with the little puck and everything else would be relocated downstairs, so that if we had to hold a meeting downstairs in that conference room, we'd be able to do so. And at the same time, I'd be looking probably at maybe even doing it via Bluetooth with the computer to get away from the cable. Downstairs, it's a little more confined, I think, radio-wise, so I don't think there'd be much interference. But in any case, it would be a more appropriate size for that space anyway.
Yep.
As I'm sure you're aware, this is it's probably difficult for you to see names, when they appear on there.
I squint. Any way you can get a color plotter to go in that grant?
Yes. So that was what we had discussed. That within that amount of money, I mean, I have a laundry list of stuff, but Jeannie's gonna probably preempt me if I mention too much. But I'd really.
As you can imagine, his laundry list is all technology.
No, actually not. There is some.
We figured that.
There is some, but like the back stair doors, once you get your report on the building assessment, those doors down there really need to be replaced. They go out from the emergency exit. But in any event, but the plotter certainly could be covered under this as well, along with the document camera.
I'm not sure about that.
The plotter?
I'm not sure about that.
I think.
Read all the documentation. Just telling you.
I do believe because it is part and parcel of providing that that interactivity with the remote user. So it's being able to produce, reproduce, and display the information.
I love seeing you two interact in
Oh,
public.
you should see it during the day,
And he always wants technology.
We've known that for years. Yeah.
And she doesn't, so.
Oh,
That's not true.
No,
But I
it's-
think there needs to be a balance.
Right. The only thing that I would be talking to you about outside of the normal budgeted items, it's all in disaster recovery. And there are some disaster recovery pieces that we really should have. But that's for another time. But
Yeah, anything else?
But in terms of, all of our systems, our firewalls, our servers, we're in pretty decent shape with all that. So
Really red.
not at all.
So does she know that a fireball isn't a wall fire? It could be, that would be cool though.
So anyway, I would recommend the board approve this so that we could at least get it ordered and get in that queue so that we can get this at some point.
One more question.
Yes.
I think we have to replace these mics. I mean, they're not, the other ones are, I realize that people forget to turn them on, but these you can't really turn off easily. And are they going to be any better sound if we get?
Well, so the quote with all wireless requires some different components, and it's about $13,000 more in total. So, I mean, you could say, give it a cap of 45,000 and say we want to go all wireless. I do have that quote, and I'm sure I could get them to hold the pricing on that if you wanted to use the same equipment. These require you to press and hold the button when muted. So it is, as you say, it's not as easily done, but they are functional. It's entirely possible that we could do some kind of mix. So maybe rather than doing them all wireless, we could do some of them wireless, but still have some fixed.
I look, and it's a lot of times we have people come up and they're stepping over the cords, and we have wires into here, and then we connected here.
Yeah.
And then we try and move them, and
you may recall I had recommended some fixes for that, but I believe the board voted not to do anything with the table at the time. It was when the glass was being replaced. But in any event, but I'm all for wireless. I think they work very well, and it also allows you to relocate if you needed to, or if you had some other big event going on in here, you wouldn't be stuck to the one table. You could, have multiple tables, or you could move them around, obviously.
and that we could look at that if we went with your proposal at a limit of 45.
45, that would cap it. I believe it was 13,000 and change over, but 45 would certainly cover it. Mm-hmm. And if for some reason it's not, I'll come back to you at your next meeting.
And to lower it.
Well, to correct whatever needs to be corrected, but I just didn't happen to bring that with me.
Make the motion.
I couldn't do it. I'm for, but I just can't make that. It's not my. It's not me.
Well,
It's not you.
the thing is that the time to decide whether you want to be wireless, it's important because some of the gear that we would be buying would replace what we have, obviously. So, I mean, it changes some of the rack components that are in the AV equipment.
So if we went wireless, what would you do with this equipment?
I guess we'd try to, auction it off or
Or you can downstairs.
Could we use it downstairs?
It's a possibility you'll still have the same issues of
We're tripping
cables
over it.
and things like that, but yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. Mhm.
This is all with the funds,
The reimbursement, yep, and or ARPA.
ARPA funds.
No, this is.
FEMA, this is FEMA,
Separate.
but either one should cover it.
Oh, I saw those eyes. It's the eyes that really get you, trust me. Make a motion that we allow Tim to purchase the audiovisual components for upstairs for wireless, not to exceed 45,000 out of FEMA funds.
I'll second that. Discussion?
So we're not really clear on which funds will be used. Would it be more appropriate to make it at no cost to the taxpayer, not to affect it that way?
Okay, I can
I-
say
Or just
I
say
think so.
FEMA or.
FEMA
Yeah.
or ARPA funds, no cost to the
Right.
taxpayers.
That's really not true. But
No, it's not. Let's say, let's just cap it ARPA
the
or
local
FEMA
level.
funds,
at the local
period.
level.
Because ultimately, it's always a cost to us.
Not raised through taxation in the town of Tilton.
That's correct.
There you go, that's the one.
Any other discussion?
Second, that.
Any other discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, very good. I will get on that and keep you updated.
Probably on a ship outside LA right now, waiting.
Could very well be.
He called the audio.
No, I would never do that.
He's just gonna go downstairs and
I will just give you another couple of updates. Speaking of supply chain issues, we've waited for quite some time for not only the generator at the new PD, but then also the connection box for the generator at the new PD, both of which were covered under the Emergency Management Performance Grant. And we are now at the point the connection box has been installed and the vendor for the generator is going to be coming up and certifying it along with the electrician. And we will be all online with that finally. The other thing is regarding the radio communications. You may recall we had a brief discussion one evening that was getting approval for additional monies that were to be paid for out of the police building fund. And for radio communications, the microwave was installed on the tower today and it has a clear line of sight to the Tilton PD. We're waiting on a piece of equipment that will replace up in Belknap when that main repeater goes to the tower. That will be our primary tower. So that's moving along. We've waited quite some time. Again, it was the microwave components that we were waiting on. And it was supply chain issues again. So anyway, I just wanted to give you those few updates and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. All right. Moving down to Selectmen's reports. First up, Joe Jessman.
I have a short list. They got in touch with Selectman Dick in Samerton, and he's good with the 16th of October to do the perambulation, John. Okay, well, I'm gonna give him a copy of what we have in advance, and we'll set up something that's mutually agreeable, and maybe we'll drop vehicles or, something like we did last time, but that's actually happening on the 16th. I've got a number of messages into Titus about the budget committee information for the concert series, but I have not talked to Titus specifically. Don't know, but I keep leaving messages. And we were supposed to have a hazard mitigation program meeting yesterday, but last minute it was canceled, something unforeseen. I don't know exactly what that is. And that's all the stuff I have.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Last night I attended the, I don't know what it was called, the event up at the Mountain Highland Center.
Foothills Foundation.
The, what is it? Foothills Foundation, about the recreation in the Tilton, Northfield, Franklin area. It was very interesting. They had a bunch of questions, and the main purpose of that is there's a bunch of trails out there. So there's some over at the what's the name of the place in Northfield? Oh my gosh. No, not the Pines. Spalding. The Spalding Academy. There's trails that are out there. There are cross-country trails at Highland Mountain Bike Park that are flat trails that are not on the mountain. There are in those. There's also some trails in Franklin, And the goal is to, and also taking the Winnie Trail and expanding it from the McDonald's area out towards Belmont to where it would join up with the Wow Trail over near Agway in Belmont. So that is part of their ultimate goal, is to increase the recreational options using this trail system and connecting this trail system so that it becomes a much more extensive and well-used trail system. I'm sure they have some challenges because of properties and the way those go, but it was interesting. It wasn't really a presentation, and then they had a bunch of let's go pull up pictures that I took on my phone. So they had a bunch of boards up. So so one of them was, what programs would you like to see added in this area? And people stuck stickers, color stickers. So educational programs, outdoor classroom, lessons, skills, camps, clinics, mountain biking, trail running, orienteering, kids camps, health and wellness programs, ecology tours, and someone wrote trail work days, adult skill camps, scheduled group rides by skill. It was interesting. Then the other big one that was there was I don't know what's going to be called, is the over on the Partridge property. They have been approved for a campground that will be rather large. It will be 316 total sites, 108 tent sites, 208 RV sites. So they had this is at the Partridge property. So if you go up Sargent Street and kind of where it goes up to Zion Hill, off to the right there, and it'll connect to the bike trail out there, and it'll be along the river. It'll be kind of give you a perspective. It'll be across from Park Cemetery. So I have a picture. I'll try to get that into the drive so people can see that. It's just a picture that I took, but it was interesting but they have been approved for that. And now they're out getting permits. It takes, I think the process, he said that he's starting October 1st, and it takes 90 days to get his permits. And then after that, he gets financing and to do that. So it was good. There's a few dozen people there, but it was come and go as you please. And I was only able to go there from about 6:15 to 6:50 until I came down here for budget meeting. And my other part was budget meeting, but Tim took care of that with what went on there. And then I have been approached by a company, and I don't know if you've gotten any of but the guy texts me and calls me all the time about, they have a contract in Northfield. So that's why they want to do here, is to switch all their street lights to LED lights. I don't know if that's ever been discussed here. So
A few years back.
yeah, so they're a company, I think they're trying to piggyback on what they're doing in Northfield and do that here. So hey, he's emailed me some information and I will get it out to everyone. And then I talked to someone last night at the event. Old Home Day will stay as it is. Northfield, the proposal by that was on Facebook was changed, and they're going to come up with an event, but it's not an Old Home Day thing. That the idea was to keep Old Home Day. So that was a good thing to hear.
How many people showed up at the Selectmen's meeting the night they were going to propose?
I didn't ask that question, so I don't have that information. But it was weird because the post is still there, but there's like no comment anywhere, and you have to listen to the minutes of the meeting, which I have not had a chance to do. But a resident of Northfield suggested that they don't change that event, and I guess that was heeded to because of who it was. So it was good. And Well, one thing from the budget meeting last night is, and I don't know the answer to this question, so I'll ask it. Can items be added to the tax bill in the mailing?
What specifically are they asking?
The thought is, when they mail out the tax bill, so all these outside agencies that we buy services from, to put like a brochure in the tax bill to make people aware, or even a sheet that has listing of all these services that are available to residents of the town of Tilton.
I know that the newsletter was something that is eligible to be put
Yeah.
in the tax bill, and the board voted to do that. You have the authority to do that relative to different agencies. I would need to check on that. I'm feeling like that's a no, but let me check.
Yeah.
Could that be part of the newsletter?
It could be part, well, yeah, there was some concern about it. It's just an idea at this point, but I just thought I'd ask the question so that I can pass it on to the Mr. Ruggles, because he's the actual, I was in his place last night, so. And I apologize, I was late, sorry.
I wasn't there.
And just
I don't know.
a comment on that.
Sure.
I'd be concerned that, people's tax bill, if it starts getting a lot of flyers and,
Mhm.
extra stuff in it, it's additional cost
Oh, that was
for that.
my concern.
It also looks like it's coming as if we are supporting that or
Right.
encouraging it.
Right.
I think, whereas the newsletter is strictly no advertising, facts in your tax
Right.
bill. So I think.
Tim and I talked about some things last night, so after that meeting, but, all right, that was all I had. Sorry for all my time. John Scanlon, next.
So I was out ill last week, hit me hard. I guess people have been hit with that non-COVID related. I'm wearing a mask and still, laryngitis in the throat. So I was kind of out of the system last week, but Eric gave me a little update. I caught up with it. One of the things that I'm noticing now is we have a lot of unsigned timesheets, unapproved timesheets, not signatures, but typewritten names in there, PAR, so take a look through there. Most of them are.
In PARs are unsigned?
Yeah, there's a section for supervisor approvals and stuff.
No, you mean pay time
I'm
off,
sorry.
pay time off, right?
Whatever the new form.
Well, there's
the,
a pay time off. It's at PAR.
I apologize, yeah, that's the wrong one, it's still the form. No sense of holding it up, but next week we can, I won't go backwards. That's it from, the statue should be ready. I didn't know if it was decided where it's going to end up, because it could get delivered in the next week.
Well, I think there were aren't there two statues?
One is, it cannot stand up on its own, or it would need a special case. Just be the one that can stand up.
Is that one able to stand up?
Oh, very easily, yeah.
So what I recall from past conversations of the board is that it would go up on stage, one on either side. So if there's one, wherever you want to put it. The other thing I recall is concerned by someone that the statue would fall off the stage and that they wanted it wired or secured somehow to the stage. So.
How much does the statue weigh?
A lot.
Would the stage support it?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a cast zinc, which is a light metal, but it's, I would say, 250 pounds.
Oh, I'm thinking like
It's not that
1,000
big.
pound statues.
No, it's,
As long as it's behind Mr. Ruggle, it's fun.
The base is equipped in such a way that it can be attached with screws to, I was speaking of the sketch. So Pat has made the base has to get attached. And then from that base, there's a piece of plywood that goes around that screws can go through and attach it into a floor or any other surface.
Will it fit on, do you know the size will fit on that stage, John?
I didn't bring a tape measure, but I can check.
But
I
that
mean,
was
it
my
may not be-
recollection is that you were gonna put it up on the stage.
I think it's 20 by 23.
Well, then it's could be
That's not gonna fit.
8
And then,
inches more
and then
than
it's
that.
gonna be 2 inches on each side more than that.
Yeah. Which is-
So it's gonna be 23 by 25.
It won't fit up there, I don't believe that. I don't think that's got 23 inches.
You got the tape measure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Enough,
Okay.
Well, no, that's 11 inches.
By 11.
Even the 23 way won't get much, you cut it and mold it.
But the 20 will, right?
It's not here, so it's almost, it's gonna be, it'll be a tight fit if it fits.
Bring it up and maybe next to that chair for now. There, the corner until it's decided where to put it.
It's heavy. Just the base
Well,
alone
if
is
it's
heavy. You
I'm
put
not-
this,
Okay, if it's heavy, I'm not sure I want to put it over there, because all those file cabinets.
just the base alone is solid cherry, and it doesn't have anything on it. And it's got to be 40 pounds at least,
Okay, so it's probably about 260 pounds,
Yeah.
I'd say. Well, that's-
all told.
So I know that you recall that when we moved things around up here and we put all those file cabinets there, that we looked at the load. And there, according to what we were told, nothing else should go over there. I guess I'd have a building inspector look at where we're at right now, where you would put it. So obviously we don't want to go through 4. So, I don't know, maybe up against a load bearing wall. I don't know.
So perhaps you can
Yeah.
basically go somewhere and go there.
And I believe that eventually they're going to be talking, the historical society, talk to the selectmen about, and the Tilton School about possibly having a room for display things somewhere down the road.
To possibly have that in there.
But
It depends, I mean, I'm working on it, but I have to have somebody routed the edges because my hands aren't steady.
so, if anybody has a place to put it, at least temporarily, maybe get back to me, for X. I mean, it's only this big.
What about the corner by the outside door over here by Tim's office?
Well, we could put it in Catherine's office temporarily. In the corner. I mean, I
It'd
don't
be
think,
easier to do it without having to go upstairs.
okay,
I have to go upstairs to get here.
The elevator.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know who just mentioned the idea of putting it in a corner of by Tim's office, maybe someplace temporarily.
Oh, in the opening, in the front,
In that-
where the chairs are?
Yeah.
Way in that corner, yeah, that might be an idea. Or where the flags are in the corner and way in the conference
I
room.
think we should put it in Tim's office.
Okay. All in favor?
He's not here.
I know.
Is it wireless?
Is he listening?
Would it be wireless?
With ARPA
One
funds.
that's-
Wireless.
Could be a
We'll
thought.
put a Walkman on it.
So anyway, if somebody can come up with something, just get back to me and, and just in the next 2 weeks, have it at that position. That's about it for me for now, this week.
All right, thanks, Sean. Pat Constantine?
All right. So, senior center stove in particularly, it's not coming anytime soon. We took the old one out. We got several confirmations on the stove arriving, and then it got changed and changed again, and now it's changed again. So I spoke with Suzanne Demers, and we were able to finagle the whole week with food this week. But going on any further it's really a dilemma. So I reached out to Casey at Lowe's immediately, absolutely immediately. And I say immediately, it was, how can I help? And he's giving us a Lona stove. Thank you to Kevin and the crew. They picked the stove up, and Tim's downstairs giving the keys to Chris Can, who's going to hook the stove up tonight. So they'll be in business on Monday for meals. That's what we were really afraid of, that we weren't going to have meals next week. So it's something to do with the supply carrier. It's from the manufacturer. They're not able to get it out. Who knows when? Tim spoke with them. Scott, I spoke with them. I don't know how many times, emails. I've called them, pleaded with them. It's to no avail. Anyway, that's the saga on the senior center stove. We'll be very pleased when we get it. It's really a really nice stove. Wish we hadn't taken the other one out, but thought we were on board with it. I do want to take a few seconds to wish Cindy Reinhart's well on her new endeavor, retirement. Today was her last day, and so I'm wishing her much happiness in her new journey. So good luck, Cindy. And I think I want to talk more about the website in contact because of the email that we got. And I know that Scott and Joe replied back, but I don't think that that was what Mr. Barrett was looking for. I think he was speaking in terms of generalities, that he wanted people to have access to the selectmen, the elected officials' numbers. And yet you gave them your personal numbers, which is great, but that's only one person out of 3,900 people. So I hope that we have time to discuss that tonight. The other thing is, I hope that, are we gonna put off another week for the draft on the assets, because John's been out and hasn't had time to look at it. I've written a few ideas on it, on the proposal that Tim has given us. So I don't know where we're at with that.
That was in Jeannie's report, I think.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
the draft capital apps.
I apologize, I have not read Jeannie's report today at all.
It's just a line looking for action.
Came in today. Okay. All right. I think that's really it for me.
Scott Ruggles?
So just a little follow-up. I was going to speak to what Pat just spoke to in terms of contact information on the website. And I just did a little poking on a couple of other municipalities who have select boards, and it's a little bit all over the place in terms of what they do. But I do think we need to take a look at it and address and think what would be most appropriate for our constituents in our municipality. And that's all I had for tonight. I think a discussion about it and the direction that we should take And it may come down to looking at other municipalities and sort of finding out what the trend is with them. And then, not that I always want to go with the trend, but I think for the constituents, it would be a good idea to have some clarity for it.
I did get a phone call on this past weekend, and I asked the person how they got my number, because I hadn't ever spoken to this person before. And they said from the website. So from when we spoke on Thursday, from over the weekend, the number, my personal telephone number has been added, so I don't know how that got there.
Magic.
I appreciate
John?
it.
Yeah, I'd like to have mine back up there. I know it used to be up there. I never asked for it to be removed. A lot of times, I do stuff with cleaning the statues or other things in town. And people want to know how to get in touch with me, and they'll call about those things. So I'd like to, have a back up there. I looked even, like if you look at Franklin, they've got all the councilmen, they've got their email addresses and all their phone numbers are right there. The whole town, Franklin, a couple of towns was Enfield. A lot of them have just email. Some of them have a gotcha, what do you call it?
Capture.
Yeah, so that, it couldn't be mined or something like that.
They have one.
Capture, so like it's not, so you're not a bot, a robot. So you're not gonna get.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
But, it's so handy because, things like that involve a lot of different things and people have questions and they're 24/7, they calls. And they're silly calls. Yes, granted, some of them are really silly. It's like, you should be calling the police or something, but when I signed up for selectmen and budget and conservation, all these things, it's a 24/7 job, and I don't mind getting the calls and feeling them and doing that. So I'd like to have mine up there. I don't, some people have different things that they may not want to have their cell phone number or something on there, and perhaps even an extension. So if you call town hall, you ask for selectman Scanlon in 302 or something like that. Could go into a mailbox, or a phone service could forward it to your cell phone. There's other technology and stuff like that. So it's important. They didn't put me in here because they want to talk to me and have me do things. I guess there was a vote, I saw it, to not allow phone numbers, but I don't know why it was removed in the first place, because I never voted to have it removed. I'd like to have mine back. That's just my comment on it.
Anyone else? So I did just a little research and found the minutes of the April 8th, 2010 meeting where emails were discussed. And it had a lot of discussion about liaisons. Liaison. And Pat, you were the chair at the time. And there's one thing in here that says, Chair Constantino said the last 2 months have been inundated with emails that are forwarded, and she has had to forward emails that were sent just to her, not the rest of the selectmen. Emails should not be sent to individual selectmen. They should be sent to the Board of Selectmen. So I don't know if that was,
Taken out of context.
well, is that just back then it was, because I think there were more liaisons then, so.
We had individual liaisons, not just one liaison.
Right.
Right.
So everyone was emailing everyone, so I was just trying to find out.
Well, the issue back then was there were selectmen that were directly contacting department heads without going through the liaisons. And that's what the problem was. It wasn't directly. And so, like any other minutes that you go back to, which is why I stress minutes are very important, that you get it out of context when you go back 10 years and say, oh yeah, well, that's what they really meant. So back then, that's what was happening. And that's why we had in process a work, like we developed work notes going to the public works, and then it was only department heads. Then we funneled it through the selectman's assistant, and then it still continued. And then we then had the town administrator as the liaison. So that's why that was happening years ago.
I had a question for Jeannie. As a public official, are you required to have your phone number listed or your email? I mean, today email, but I remember when growing up, you know, when you're reading things and things like that. But as a public official, you had to be accessible by the public.
So I don't.
But that was in Massachusetts, so I don't know what it's in
I
New
don't
Hampshire.
think- I don't think that there's a requirement that your phone number be on the website.
Right.
I think the fact that you have your email on the website and that if somebody wants to get a selectman, they can call the selectman's office and get through the selectman that way. You know, I think, like Scott said, you're gonna see it all over the place. And I know my time in the Senate, there were senators who would have their email and their personal phone number, cell phone number, and others who wouldn't. And the problem with that was it was unbalanced. And for those who didn't want their cell phone on the website, then there was a lot of pressure put on them because, you know, it was like, well, these have their number on, but these don't. So it made the people who didn't want their number on the cell phone brought pressure on them to have their number on the website. So I think at the end of the day, it's, you know, you all have to decide, but I personally, I just think it's going to be difficult if 2 or 3 have their cell phones on and 2 don't. It makes the 2 who don't have theirs on. It just doesn't look good. So
I think that we are not, first, we're not the Senate. Senate's a very different level of government. And I get what you're saying, and I don't mean any disrespect to that at all, Jeannie, because once you reach that level, even representative level, you're inundated with phone calls. We live in a very small town. We've been transparent for a number of years. I've been here in this office now this is my 13th year. We've been extremely transparent with our numbers and our availability and flexibility with our constituents. And when particularly outside agencies that want to get in touch with us, we have our own police department that have not only their names, their emails, their telephone numbers, and their extension numbers on their website. And all I'm asking is that I have my name, my telephone number, and my email accessible. If something comes up that the board should be involved in, that you forward it immediately to the board. I have never veered from that one iota. In 12, 13 years that I've been here, as a chair or anybody, I have always forwarded it to the Board of Selectmen. And I think we're adult enough to all know that. You know, whether Northfield, whether Meredith, whether Franklin, whether any of our other towns or cities does it differently, we all know who lives around us, grown up with us, you know, served with us. And they want to get in touch with us. You know, there's seniors that are looking to talk with us and find out different ways and things like that. I want them to be able to get in touch with me. But I don't want them to bother 4 other selectmen either in doing that. So I'm asking for the courtesy of having it put on there for those reasons. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. And as Mr. Barrett stated very clearly that, I mean, he wasn't asked last week, and I feel bad about that because one time we don't ask for public comment, and he really had public comment, so I feel bad about that. But I do personally want that, and it's always been in existence for me. I don't know why it was taken off. I wasn't aware that it was taken off until somebody really wanted it, was looking for it. And I really want it put back on.
I speak from a different angle because I had something happen to me because someone found out where I lived by looking up my last name. It wasn't related to anything with public office, but it was from a work issue. And I woke up the next morning and my front window was shattered on my front door. And, you know, because I heard someone say, find out where he lives. And ironically, coincidentally, whatever you want to call it, the next morning, my front window was shattered. And I don't have an issue with someone calling town hall and town hall issuing out my phone number. I could put an email. I don't mind my selectman email being on the website. I can create a automatic reply when someone emails me that thank you for contacting me. If this is an urgent, please, here's my number. You can call me here. But, you know, where someone can just put my phone number out there, you know, I mean, yeah, they can find out where I live. They can search my name on the internet. And
I don't really feel that this should be, you know, a yay or nay decision. I think it's a board, you know, an individual decision. I'm an elected official. I was elected by the townspeople. The townspeople want to get in touch with Pat Constantino. Let them get in touch with Pat Constantino. You should not make that decision whether or not people want to get in touch with Pat Constantino or not. I should not make that decision whether or not people want to get in touch with you. They voted you in, they voted me in, and they should be able to get in touch with me.
There's,
John,
if you want, and you don't want to have your phone number on there, they do offer free forwarding. You can go to a website, they'll give you a phone number, and you set up with the free forwarding for it, and you can have it in, I think there's all 50 states. And you just put your phone number in there. And so if you're concerned about giving your personal phone number, and same with you, Pat, you know, if you didn't want to get extra spam calls, you can sign up. People will call that number, it will be on our website, it will get forwarded to you. If you're getting bad stuff, you can change it. It's not your personal number. No simple.
I've never had any problems with you. If you don't want your number up there, don't put your number up. If you want 286-4521 extension 100 up there, put that number up there. That's entirely up to you, but it should be entirely up to me too. Period. I'm a selectman. I've been voted by the people, not by individual selectmen here that are going to decide on it.
So it was a tie vote.
there was
How can it be a tie vote? There's 5 of us.
there was 2.
Last week.
John
was
Phil.
up.
Yeah.
John was absent.
And, you know, because it was a tie vote, it was voted that we can't. I think I should have been part of that.
Make a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we allow, if you wish, to have your phone number posted on the website.
Second. I don't think we should even have to do this. I think it should be a personal choice. Not the board's decision.
Your email and phone number is on the website right now, Pat.
Somebody put it up there this weekend, Jeannie.
So it's on there.
I get that. Yeah, no, yes, I said that earlier.
I think,
Somebody put it up there this weekend.
I understand, so I guess,
So, right,
so
I get what you're saying.
if others want theirs on there, they guess they
Right.
could.
So
Do
we're
that.
arguing for nothing.
So we don't necessarily have to vote on it. We could just make it a personal choice. If you want your number on,
That's what the motion was.
right, but are you making, it makes it sound like,
Well, you
I
had a
have no
motion
choice
last
now.
week, You can't.
well,
I
That's the
think,
thing.
I
So,
think you have to reconsider the vote first in terms of process, but to the point of what last year, feels like last week, it was, you voted, it was a tie, correct?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
if you're gonna vote on it this week, you have to reconsider that vote first.
so
And, but to the point Pat has made and Eric has just made, it's a personal choice and everybody's okay with it. Give Tim your information and I'll put it on the website.
so the motion, according to the minutes of last week, I'll just read the section. It says Pat asked that her selectmen contact information be included in on the website. Tim confirmed could easily be done. Eric found the selectmen's individual emails on the website. Pat wants her phone number included. Selectman Constantino moved, seconded by Selectman Pirate, to have her contact information included on the town's website. Discussion, motion failed.
So somebody put it on there, even though it was voted against.
So I'll make the motion to reconsider.
So wait, you have to
Trying
rescind,
to tell you.
do you have to rescind the second in the motion that we just made?
Was it seconded? Yes, it was.
Pat seconded, you seconded, so do you,
I
all
rescind my second.
right, so she rescinded her second, you need to rescind your motion,
So that,
so done, all right,
Didn't take us this long to vote for $45,000.
no, oh. So now John's making a motion to reconsider the vote of last week. Is that correct? All right. So there's a motion to reconsider the vote of last week. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
yes, I think a vote of that way should, that type should be held when we're all present, not when there's only if somebody's out, unless it's an emergency. That's my discussion. That's why we consider it.
Duly noted. Any other discussion? All those in favor of, I guess, reconsidering
Vote.
the vote to have Selectman Constantinos, because that's the way it's worded, contact information, phone number and email included on the town website, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. You recusing yourself, I guess, or I don't know. All right. Opposed? Motion passes.
So I guess I have to make a motion to allow mine or any selectman.
I think we word it as any selectman who chooses to have their information on the website can do so.
Okay, and
I
that's
don't
my
think we need to
motion.
make a motion for it. I think that's just an agreement, a consensus. If you'd like to have your personal information, not your personal email, just your selectman email and your personal phone number included on the website, contact the information director, Tim Pearson, by email or
That's easy.
phone. There you go.
Consensus?
Consensus?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Joe? Shrug? John?
Mhm.
Okay, head nod, yes. That's a consensus. All right. Beaten, dead,
20 minutes ago.
20 minutes ago. All right. Anything else? No, that was,
That was it.
all right. We're moving on to the town administrator's report. Is the Tilton Island Bridge page part of your report? Jeannie,
This one?
this Tilton
Yes.
Island, okay.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
architect proposal for the tree removal, the Civil War monument requires signature. I think you probably all signed that. You did, I saw that, so that's taken care of. Draft of the capital assets and depreciation policy. I put this in front of you a couple of weeks ago per Pat's comment a few minutes ago. Since John wasn't here, if you want to put it off a week, doesn't matter to me.
Please.
Please, moving on. We'll put it off for next meeting.
Update on Caleb Hill Road project. I was expecting Tim and at least Kevin to be here. So since they're not, I
He
will
was
do
here.
it on my own. For the background, Tim, Leanne, and I met with the New Hampshire DOT yesterday. We discussed the uncertainty of the project cost and the potential liability to the town and how those concerns might be addressed. I thought that would get him up here.
He came up here late and fast, all right. You can sit right up here, Tim, and
Yeah, why don't you sit right up? We have Tim and I, we have a very excellent relationship.
I could see.
work husband.
So, any event, we spoke with Kevin Russell at the New Hampshire DOT, and as Tim pointed out to Kevin, 7 years ago, they came up with a price that they seemed to feel, whatever that price was, it's only been a 14% increase 7 years later. How did they come up with that number? He didn't seem to know how that number was developed. And our concern has always been, what's it going to cost the town? The end result is that Kevin said we could certainly revise the project agreement and go back to the commissioner of the Department of Transportation and say, because our promise has been that we should be able to have an engineering company do a estimate about what it's going to cost. And if they come back and say it's going to be $5 million, we should be able to back out of that without having to pay those engineering costs to hire them to give us that number. So he said he understood that. And that we could change the project agreement. Tim made a good point. He thought that if we are going to move forward with this, that we should have another public hearing on it to hear from the people on Caleb Hill Road. He also, I thought, came up with a unique idea, which I don't know. It's interesting. I was talking to my husband about this morning, and he said the same thing you said. This idea that the money, they give us the money and they let us put it in a trust, and that we use that money as we need it to do whatever we need to do on that road. But the bottom line is this: they want us to take over almost 2 mile road. I think we're extremely uncomfortable, Kevin, Leanne, myself, and Tim, about what that's going to cost and the burden it's going to place on this community. And I mean, I think we kind of are all feeling like this is not something that we would advise the town to do.
Did they give you any indication on what roads are costing per mile now?
Well, they say $1 million a mile, but it's not.
Still $1 million miles.
Yeah, and that's not as they call it, there's reclamation, and then there's what they refer to as full box, where you have to cut it down. And he said, Kevin Russell said he had driven the road, and he said it's not a reclamation project. Right. I mean, there is some
Yeah.
reclamation to it, but
Right.
there's a lot that needs to be done on that road to make it right.
Yeah, probably a 2/3, 1/3. The other thing is that the state DOT has an engineering review committee where they go through and they pour through the costs and they help either their own projects or municipally managed projects, look at the estimates and do a review of that. So clearly this did not go through that process, or didn't go through that committee to be reviewed. So really there's a big question about where the number came from. Now, it could be that back when the original Warren article was done and when we were in negotiations with the state back in 14, 15, that it may have gone through that process then. But how it got to be from there to the number we have now is unknown. So really, I think the leverage that we have is they, as Jeannie said, they clearly want us to take this road. And I think, it's up to us to stipulate, well, in order to even consider that, we're going to need the engineering, company to do the costs, which when we were interviewing the companies through a very rigorous ranking system that's required by the municipally managed projects, each one of the engineering companies said it's probably about 30% of their cost, roughly speaking, to get some kind of number.
And remember, we have 2.9 million to spend on the road, 350,000 to spend on engineering.
So we felt as long as we were able to get a cap of 150 or 200,000 for reimbursable engineering monies, so that we would, we'd get delivered here's the scope you gave us, here's the costs as we see them for not only the road, the drainage, the whatever else that we stipulate in the scope. And then, you'll have that information. And Jeannie brought up, well, are there additional monies available if, let's say, it does come in at $5 million? What would the state do? And so there's a lot of unknowns at that point, but
Well, pretty much you said nothing. This is what you get.
yeah, and just reiterating the fact that this is a very unique situation. That it's not typically in a piece of legislation and offered like this.
Well, do you remember what the exact mileage was of Kayla Field Road?
1.9.
It's 1.9.
1.97?
Yeah.
It's not a lot of wiggle room.
And
Not a lot.
yeah, and the a couple of the engineering firms talked about the division of what they saw as reclamation versus the boxing, and it seemed there's agreement, I think, for most that there, obviously there is ledge in places, and that it's it's a pretty significant effort on that road. But listening to Kevin talk, he did seem to indicate it was probably more of a 2/3, 1/3, 1/3 being reclamation. And based on just some of the
Kevin Russell, not Kevin.
yeah, I'm sorry. And based on some of the numbers that were discussed with the engineering firms, that there were many and varied, it seems as though that would really be pushing the budget.
So would you, I'm just trying to understand if you've changed your.
No, oh no. So I think the negotiation is to put everything we want into that agreement and send it back.
I thought when we last talked that it was, this was not something that we thought, but.
If you were going to consider it,
Yeah.
that would be the thing to
really,
do.
You're right. In terms of making an informed decision, that's your informed decision. We go back to the state and we say, okay, we've marked up the project agreement. This is what it's going to take for us to even consider this, meaning you're going to have to put up the money for the engineering estimate. And if we decide when it comes back that it's a $5 million project or it's a $3 million project, 100,000 over what you budgeted, we have the opportunity to say no and walk away. and we don't have to pay for the engineering study. I mean, at least then you'll have a better figure about what that might cost. And I think to Tim's point again, of, you know, hearing from the neighborhood what they think about this. But once, you know, once the road's turned over, it's ours forever. And, you know, we asked Kevin, well, what's the benefit? Well, you get to do all the utility agreements and you get to do all the driveway permits, and it didn't really sound
Marginal
like
benefits.
benefit.
Yeah.
Felt like we get more put on us. John?
So this all came about when we were complaining about reoccurring frost heaves and bumps and impassable roads in the winter time and drainage problems with people with that. And we were trying to get the state to do it. And then that's when they came for it, if I'm correct. They said, well, if we'll do it, if you take over the road, we'll fix it. And so we said, we want it perfect. We want all the ledge out of there. We want all the drainage taken out of there and everything taken care of. And you give it to us in that condition and we'll take it. And now it's like they're turning around like we're asking for them to give it to us as opposed to taking it. The end result is we'd like to see the drainage fixed and the road kept passable in the winter. Is there any kind of happy medium in there that, you know, they would do to maintain it, be cheaper for them or what?
Well, I think they're,
Better plan.
and we had asked in that before, how many, we had asked the engineering companies too, you know, how many other towns are doing this? Are, you know, so you've got some towns who have lots of money who are doing it, and some towns who, you know, maybe don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Oh, yeah.
Samberton just finished one.
And you know, it is their road now, so, and it is a road that buses travel on, that a school's on, that the New Hampshire, you know, the Veterans Home is on. So I don't know, I can tell you over in Meredith, we're dealing with the same thing. We have 6 miles of Meredith Neck Road, and we're not taking over that road. This road's a lot smaller, but to your point, I agree with you. If they wanted to give it to you in perfect, you know, the perfect condition, that it's a perfect road after it's been constructed. But $2.9 million is not going to get you.
Well, and that's why the engineering is so important, because without, you know, because the state could be looking at this saying, well, $3.25 million, yeah, there'll be some reconstruction, some reclamation and drainage improvements and this and that, but we might want that perfect road. So if we're telling an engineering company we want this, you know, this is what we want, they're going to come back with some kind of number.
Straightening out curves. And,
yeah.
You know.
And they all did discuss that. There were improvements that all the engineering companies saw to that. They all noted drainage improvements. They all, you know, so they're very common in a lot of the issues that the road currently has. And there is cracking on the road, and the drainage problems haven't been solved. So it's not going to improve any in the near future.
And a couple,
Every year.
And a couple other things to consider and be concerned about is labor, supply chain, materials of construction.
Right.
And the dates they have on this, that we have to get this done, are unreasonable. It's like in the next 2 years.
Yeah, we'd be looking at 23.
We'd have to change the dates, but even changing the dates, I have a concern about, are we going to be able to get the people we need to do the job plus material? So there's just a lot of concerns. So I guess if this is, Tim, if this is what we're thinking to advise the board, because that's what we wanted to do, was come and advise you today about what we're thinking. The thinking is to go back with updating the agreement, see if they even go for it. And if they do go for it and they agree, they put in writing that they will pay pay the engineering fee and we won't get dinged for it if we decide to not go forward, then you've got that information and you, again, you have that public hearing with the people on Caleb Hill Road and hear what they have to say. Because once you take it over, you know, when the calls come in and there are problems, they're not going to the state, they're coming to you.
Yep.
And you're gonna want your phone number.
Joe?
Tim lives there.
I know.
The first time this came around, I thought it was sketchy. And I didn't think they could do it for the amount that they said they could do it for. And I didn't like having to pay a third to take over a state road. I didn't see the benefit to us then. I certainly don't see it now. Perhaps, maybe, if they pay for the engineering and they give us the road that we could take over and not have it be a burden on the taxpayers for the next 300 years, I might consider it. But I'm really leery about state promises. And I understand Senator Guy that has fought hard for us. He said he fought hard for us. But I'm not feeling protected somehow.
I just don't know where that number came from.
The money is
They
set
don't know where
aside.
that number
Well,
came
no.
from.
The money is set aside though.
The money's sitting there waiting for us to spend it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, right.
Does that engineering study tell us, will it tell us what it will cost to get us that perfect road or just get us a road that's doable?
Well, to Tim's point, we'll tell them what we want.
Right.
And that's what they will do the engineering study on.
Each of the engineers, we asked them about the budget. And each of them said that it was doable. It just depends on a lot of, you know, what do you want? What's your version, right? And what the state considers acceptable and what we consider acceptable, you know, are two different things. So that's why the only way I think that it would be advisable for the board to move forward is if the state were willing to do that. So we don't have any risk until we know all the facts from an independent party that knows what we want.
I agree.
In fact, I'll just, because Jeannie won't like to hear this because she's heard it 100 times, but in my office, and occasionally I put up on the website, a picture of an invoice from a paving company from August 9th, 1912 for Main Street. And it shows the split between the town and the state, what the state paid, some extras that we ordered in terms of curbing and things like that. And it was a total, no, it was a total $2,525, something like that. And that was 1912. So nothing ever gets less expensive, you know, over time. And we will own that road forever. And one of the hard discussions we had was, do we even advise moving forward? And the only thing that kind of sticks in my mind, I would have said no, with the exception that there had been those public hearings before. People wanted the road fixed. There was a push. It was voted on at town meeting to do a split and to bond it and move forward. So, you know, clearly the people had indicated a willingness to move forward on this before. I think we're all very skeptical of, you know, is the amount of money right and what are we going to get as a result of this? But that's the only reason why I hesitated in saying, no, let's just tell the board, you know, to leave it. You know, we don't want it at all. Let the state fix it.
Yeah, and I think for your constituents, for you to be thoughtful and thorough and have done your homework, you can at least go back to them and say, look, we asked the state, you know, this is what we were up against. We asked the state to pay for the engineering study and they said, no. I mean, at least you can point to the steps that you took.
Right. Exactly.
You did your due diligence.
So do you recommend the public hearing before you go back to and ask for the engineer's monies or after?
Well, what I recommend right now is that we'll make changes to the agreement. That would be the first step, because if we make changes to the agreement and we say to the state, you have to agree to pay for this engineering study, and they come back and they say, no way,
Right.
then that's
dead. Yeah.
But if they agree to everything you stipulate, then you do the public hearing.
Right.
And you see where everybody's at. And if they say, yes, we want this, then you have to find out, because if the engineering study comes back and it's $5 million, is this town gonna wanna bond the remainder? And that, is gonna be a town meeting. So it's a if this, then that
Right.
type of situation.
And all to get the state to maintain their road, their own road.
And what is their duty to care? I mean, don't they have a duty to maintain these roads in a passable, safe?
Well, they do.
How do we force their hand?
So
It's their road.
it's tough, and I'll give you an example. In Meredith right now, I was talking to my DPW director, with a state road, a numbered road like this, their duty is summer maintenance, we do the winter maintenance, right? But in the summer, they're not in Meredith, they're not doing the ditching,
They
they're
don't
not
do
doing
till-
what they're supposed to be doing. And my DPW guy called him up and said, we are in a situation where this is dangerous now, you need to take care of this. And the response he got back is, we're 3-4 months out before we're gonna get to you. So because of supply, labor, everything else that's going on, that's what, it's never been quite that bad. So I think part of it is the pandemic effect. But, they'll just push back and say, hey, and they will expect or hope that you'll do it because you care enough about your constituents that you're gonna go out and take care of it yourself.
Well, I don't think that they would even acted on Caleb Hill if you and Joe Kenny and
Probably
got the commissioner in road and showed him where the bus had to go on the opposite side of the road, coming around the corner on Caleb with the big stone boulder coming up out of the road, remember? Going around that S curve there
They never took it out,
by Range Road. Yeah, they took it out.
did they?
Yeah, they took that out and they Band-Aided it. They cut it off and then it's gonna come back up.
They didn't take the rock out.
They
just-
cut the
they-
rock.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. So it will
They
just-
ground it down.
they got part of it.
They ground it
Fix
down. That's what, yeah.
There was a spring in the same
Yeah.
location.
Every year. yes.
Yeah,
It's gonna come back up.
Yeah. Yep, that's what they did. But
They
the
just
the
taped
school
it.
bus had to go on the opposite side of the road and pray there wasn't any cars coming on the other side. And we had parents fill this room, afraid of the children and the safety of the kids.
So
That's
I
where
like your
Jeannie and
idea.
Joe Kenny stepped in.
So,
In that order.
Yeah,
See if we can get them to pay for the
Yeah.
engine.
Yeah.
If not,
so just
move
that's
Change
your,
road track.
our idea.
your.
In case it fails, I want.
Culpability.
Credit where
Mutual-
credit is due.
Mutual,
Culpability or
destruction.
culpability.
It doesn't fall under IT though.
Yeah, there's gotta be some technology in there somewhere.
It's in finance.
This is a
It's only
case
wi-
where
it's
you
only
do-
wireless.
Oh, finance, it does go under finance.
What's that?
It does go under
We
finance,
go
though,
under finance.
this category. Yeah, 300 and some odd thousand in engineer fees.
I can just give you the file. Okay,
All
so
right.
we've got direction on that.
Yeah. Moving right in.
Before you go, because I know you have to get out at 7:30.
Yes.
I wanted Tim to be part of this discussion too. So hoping that the board might consider not having a selectmen's meeting next week. Tim won't be there and I won't be there. And I know,
Party. No, sorry.
Oh, the decisions we'll make.
Bend it.
We're doing Caleb.
It's Columbus Day weekend.
Didn't I bring this up last week and said we should have it? I did, didn't I?
yeah,
Yes, you did.
but
Funny thing.
But just as a reminder, we have to swear in an officer, but we could do that the Monday she starts. And because you'd be the next one up to do that, Pat. on that Monday. You're the next in line to swear in.
So on a Monday, you're gonna do it?
Yeah, because she starts on a Monday.
Is that
We've
Columbus Day
done
Monday?
that before. No, it would be, so 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Yes, it is Columbus Day. It's that Monday.
Do the kids have school on that Monday?
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, because she drives a school bus.
Yeah.
No,
Working.
Come on, Joe.
you won't be working on that day.
I am.
So.
I am.
And
I am.
then the only other issue was that the chief wanted to make her recommendations, from the oral board. I don't see why that can't wait a week. I don't,
The 14th.
that's just my.
I'm saying,
Works for me.
I'm fine with that. That gives everybody a really long weekend.
I'm flat out at sandwich figure. So
There you go. So that works for
it'll be
you.
my only time off.
So consensus not to have a meeting next week, the 7th. Everyone okay with that? John?
Fine, yeah.
Scott?
Yes.
I am.
Everyone's okay with that?
Joe, you want a short energy committee meeting on that Thursday? And beer?
As much as, with beer? Yeah, we'll have it with beer. I'll have it at Tea Hut.
Anybody else wants to join along? You want to do that? So we can get that.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll announce the energy committee is meeting that night.
At Tea Hut.
Well, I don't think we can,
It's not an official.
we have to at least
site.
adjourn before we do that.
Okay, all
We'll
right.
start here. We'll be downstairs.
So I will send out just an email about payroll. But if you like, if you'd prefer on when you have weeks off, if you want them all electronic, I can do it all electronic on those weeks off. Or I can just email you when they're ready and you can come in and sign them either way.
Well, the holiday is the 11th, so you're gonna have payroll has to be done early that week, right?
Right.
So that's gonna screw you up on the 12th, right? So that should be electronically or no?
Well, I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, I can do it either way. I can email you and you can
I
come in.
love it
or-
electronically. so
Or you
I'll
can
send
do it electronically. It's up to you.
Considering the circumstances.
For the week,
electronically
For
is
next
fine.
week? Okay,
Sure,
right.
with me.
Very good.
Yeah, we're not gonna be
Thank
here,
you, Sue.
right?
So you could give an official notice to that energy committee meeting. No, that's serious.
That would be
Because we would
Jeannie
have to-
passing it along.
we have to post it.
Yes, I will. So
What time, Joe?
when and where?
6.
6
It's awfully busy over there.
Yeah.
We can meet right here.
downstairs, town hall?
Yep.
Okay.
So town hall,
6 o'clock.
All right,
and that's next Thursday?
Yes.
All right,
All right. Go ahead.
I see Pat. Crosswalks on School Street, just wanna, thanks.
night, Tim.
Kevin and I met with the New Hampshire DOT and Fred Keith from the Tilton School to discuss a crosswalk installation. There are 4 of them on School Street. And the DOT advised that it's the municipality's responsibility and that we can have the Tilton School be the subcontractor to install the crosswalks, or the town can install them. And so really, there was a little bit of a back and forth between Fred and the DOT guy about what had happened historically. I wasn't here, so I don't know. But the bottom line is the documentation that they gave me, there were 4 crosswalks. They eliminated one. After discussion, they agreed to put that one, it was 450 feet south of Academy Street, I think it was. They agreed that that one could go back in. They have marked where the crosswalks would go. Kevin says he can do it. He's got the retro reflective paint. Fred said he had a contractor who could do it as well. And Fred wants to get it done right away. I understand that it's a safety issue. So I'm not sure, they're both willing to do it. And I just said to them, the board's got to tell me which way you want to go. Do you want us to turn that over to the Tilton School and let them do it? Or do you want Kevin to do it? And then we have to talk about going into the future, the maintenance of these crosswalks. One of the things in the documentation it says is that it's the town's responsibility to remove the snow and ice. Kevin says the town has never gone up the hill. We've never done that, but in this documentation, it says that it's the town's responsibility.
They've always taken care of it.
Right,
So
so.
We can probably have an agreement with them.
Well, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say, is that we would have an agreement saying, if we put the crosswalks in, you maintain it going forward. But does that mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to find out.
Free from ice
Do
and
you-
snow.
Do you want, well, and every year, who's gonna put the crosswalk, who's gonna put it in, and the snow and the ice removal?
How can the state require us to put in a crosswalk that,
They're not requiring it. They're saying, we don't think you need them.
okay, so
They don't like crosswalks.
Yeah.
It's maintenance, and they have to be ADA or whatever.
I'm just thinking of the $160,000 sidewalk that we paid for that was the state's. Remember that one? Tinker versus Town of Tilton.
Yeah,
That was a state sidewalk
I
that we paid for. So that's kind of on the same line that we're going here, because we're gonna put the side, crosswalk on a state road, and we have to keep it free of ice and snow. Even if they don't plow, the school has to keep it free of ice and snow.
don't we put
They're
crosswalks on
liable
Main
for
Street?
that.
Right.
Yes.
The way that it was,
What, Eric?
Don't we put crosswalks on Main Street? A
We
state road?
do, but we keep it free.
So you're thinking, if we paint it, we keep it painted, and you guys keep it clean.
I say, let them do it and then have the agreement with the Tilton School to maintain it, because they maintain the sidewalks up there.
Yeah, they're
They
doing
do all of that. It's extra for us to stop and then go up there and do that.
Doesn't the state plow School Street?
Mm-mm. Yo, they plow School
Yeah,
Street,
they
yes.
plow.
But it's.
And they don't salt and sand it?
Yeah, they do.
They salt and sand it.
Then what are we
Shovel the
talking about
entrance.
sanding and salting of the crosswalks?
Crosswalks have to be made at all times free of salt and sand,
they have to be passable for the people crossing.
right?
Don't we,
Liability,
don't we have a sidewalk plow that goes up there, or no?
No,
It doesn't, okay.
doesn't go that far.
Okay.
Liability wise, Joe, oh, you'll get Tinkers versus Town of
Let's see what
Tilton.
we can work out.
If we paint the crosswalks, yes.
Mhm.
So here's the option. We can say to the Tilton School, you go ahead and put the crosswalks in. We as the town, because the town is the responsible party, so we have to authorize the school to do it. Because our relationship is with the state, and the state's saying to us, we can do it, the town, or we can subcontract to the school because it's the school. So you can either say to the school, you go ahead and put the crosswalks in, you maintain them. And by maintaining, I mean putting the, refreshing it every year, those crosswalks, and the ice and snow piece. It's on you. If you want it, it's on you.
Are they gonna lift up their plow at every crosswalk or something?
No,
No,
but
it's just
if
the
they
entrance
go
district.
through, yeah, right, it's the extra. If they go through and an hour later it ice is over, it's up to the school
Or you
to
can,
keep it.
right, or you can have, Kevin go up there, put it in the first time and say to the Tilton School, okay, we've done it the first time, you do it from here on out. So really, you need to tell me what you want to do.
It doesn't matter who puts it into me, but I think we need the agreement between the Tilton School to maintain it going forward. It's really up to Kevin and Fred to, if Kevin's got the equipment and the time to do it, or Fred wants it done right now, let Fred do it. And then
And
going
he
forward,
had talked to somebody and they were ready to do it, and he was ready to do it, but I said, I can't say yes to you until the board says
yeah,
yes.
I'm fine with that as
And
long
who
as we have
pays
an
for that?
agreement in place.
They would.
Oh, they would, and they have somebody. Why are they asking us?
Who?
The school.
They have to ask us because we have the relationship with the state. And
Right.
so it's us saying to the school is coming to, see,
It's a
apparently,
municipality.
apparently, at least the way I understand it was, there was an agreement between the state and the school. And the state is saying there was never a relationship like that. It was always a relationship with the town and the state and how this town dealt with the school. So if the school wants the crosswalks, we have to authorize them to do it. And then we have to let the state know that we're authorizing them to do it.
I don't ever remember, I'm sorry, Scott needs to have his hand raised.
No. I think the board needs to think, do we want the crosswalks consistent with what the rest of the crosswalks are in town? I understand it's an aesthetic piece, but just, because I know how we've done the crosswalks up there before, and it's not the same as the rest of the town. The other piece too is if we go to this and ask the school that make sure that they are maintaining it, you're gonna have to be pretty stringent with them, because there's not always perfect maintenance of the sidewalks right away as storms subside. So that will maybe have to be made fairly clear that if we're maintaining, if those crosswalks are being maintained, that they can't be left for any longer than whatever the appropriate amount of time
So
is.
who was doing it before? Because the state says they weren't doing it. And
So-
the town
Oh, so I
It was
mean,
up to the school.
here's the whole thing. I've seen this, I've been there 21 years, so I've seen the school crew, the people that they hire, go out and do the stripes. And maybe it was just an assumption, but so I don't know all the specifics of it, but I've seen the school crew that comes and does the other lines for the school, go out and do the stripes across, so.
It's always been the school. And I've been at meetings with Fred in New Hampshire DOT years ago when they wanted to move the crosswalk. And as a matter of fact, what they wanted to do is require the school, if I remember this correctly, to remove part of the wall because they needed a cut in at a certain place for their crosswalk to come in on their sidewalk. And by doing that, they had to remove one of the walls going into the stairs, going into the admin building. And they didn't want anything to do with that. So they moved the sidewalk up to do the cut in. And that was all negotiated with the state and not the municipality.
Right, and there is one crosswalk, the nearest to the door, the front door, that the state says that they said that's the one that they would do, but they're 2 years out. So in terms of getting that done, we're not gonna get it done. And Fred did say that he has documentation that the state has done this in the past and that he is certain of that. And I said, well, that's something you have to deal with the state directly. The town is not.
Well,
That's
they've
not-
always dealt with the state, never with the municipality. I've been a part of that.
And I know you wanted to talk, just before I forget.
Me too, yeah.
One other thing is, in the documentation, it says that we're required to put no parking signs up. The municipality is, and when we talked to the state about that, they said, no, even though it's in the documentation, no, we don't need to. I know. So it's a letter that we would draft to the state too, based on the conversation we had. So, sorry.
Another question.
John?
Sorry.
So I think what we need to do now is we all seem to agree that we want to allow the school to paint the sidewalks and to maintain them. And we need to come up with an agreement for them to do that and provide that they will maintain them per RSA. I think there's a specific one that tells you on snow removal by in so many hours, maintain crosswalks. And I know there is one, I can remember that. It's within 24 or 48 hours and they have to keep them clear of ice and snow. Is that what everybody is thinking? That's what I'm thinking.
Well, in adding one more thing, because Scott had a great concern here, that aesthetically, we really want it consistent with the rest of our crosswalks.
Do you?
Do we?
It would
It's their
be-
school.
Right. It's a private school. Honest,
They might want their school colors on it and their school logo.
Black wouldn't go well on black, but.
Yellow, gold,
I'm just saying.
paved, yellow brick road.
Gold on black would
Be wonderful.
Yeah, the gold would
There you
look
go.
good.
struggles across
Paint
the
the
side.
rest of the road.
No. I need my own crosswalk so I don't get hit down the hill, so.
I would say we just allow Tilton School to paint the lines on the pre-existing side, crosswalks and come up with a memorandum of understanding to institutionalize arrangements going forward.
That one of the key things is they maintain them per
Yeah.
SA.
That's what we've been talking about. that
Yeah.
They maintain them for the RSA.
And then we can revisit it.
And they
tweak it, or
repaint
paint
them
or
periodically,
whatever.
and
We'll work together. I think. At least that'll get.
why not?
I think they need to get
The
painted
consensus.
as soon as possible.
Vote
And
or
and
what?
appoint Scott as the judge and jury on it.
On the paint colors?
Constable.
Well, just the color, you can head that up.
The sidewalk.
I'm just
police.
kidding you, just kidding you.
The sidewalk police.
so
Yeah.
we have agreed to
Yeah.
tell the Tilton School that they can
Yes.
paint the crosswalks, maintain them into the future.
Yes.
And that's
Per
per
RSA.
RSA.
The memo of understanding.
Okay.
Right.
The next item I have is the Ford Explorer. Apparently, there are more pages that need to be signed, Cindy. So, and there's only one line for the signature, so,
We have to make a motion to authorize Eric to do
yes.
it. I make a motion that we authorize Eric Pyra, the chairman of the board, to sign for the new Ford Explorer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? I abstain.
Next item, John's, follow-up to John's inquiry about the Tilton Island Bridge. I did reach out to the preservation team who's working on the assessment / preservation plan, and they recommended several steps to address the rust prior to the winter. I sent you all a copy of that there in your email. There's also a copy in the packet along with a picture. Just want to know if you want, I did talk to Kevin about it. He said he could take care of it. So I don't know.
Go for
Yes, let's have Kevin do it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, doing this, well, we talked about doing this in the past, and there was some concern that because it was a historic bridge and so on and so forth, would it be to our advantage to have a historic bridge guy come and paint it? I mean, we're not ruining our chances of getting this bridge fixed ultimately because we spray painted, right?
No, because the historic preservation guy, the expert, is the one who's making the recommendation.
Who wrote that memo?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure we don't hurt our chances. I know it needs work, hard, big time.
All right, next item.
FYIs.
FYI. Well, Kim was going to be sworn in tomorrow because that was the effective date, October 1. I did talk to her about it. She wanted to get sworn in tonight and told her that the effective date is not till October 1, so
Right.
that she should be sworn in tomorrow morning. I think she got sworn in today. I didn't know that because I told her that she should wait until tomorrow, but she has been sworn in.
What happened?
If anybody else can come down, we'll do. Tomorrow morning?
She talked with the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State said it was fine for her to get sworn in tonight instead of tomorrow morning.
That's what I was told.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I'm,
Okay, so how are we gonna do this?
well, it's already done at this point.
Oh, is it?
Who did it? Oh, okay then.
I was gonna do it tomorrow morning.
Can you do it tomorrow morning, just make it, that just covers it, it's easy. Do it twice, doesn't matter, be done on that date. And
And as a liaison to the police department, I had some items there. I sent you some emails on that. I don't need to go through it unless anyone has any questions.
I do. What are we talking about?
PD liaison pieces.
Are we on the second bullet or the,
Whatever you want. I said, if there's anything you have questions on, I'm happy to.
out last week, and I may be wrong, but last week I thought in the letter that Chief had sent to you that it was confirmed in the selectman participant. My understanding, it was Joe Jessamine. That's my understanding.
I didn't, I.
I felt it was up in the air. That was how I felt. We discussed it. I volunteered,
Because
but I
Scott had
hadn't
done it
heard
the last
anything
time.
back, on that. So if they're looking for one more, I could be that one more perhaps, the boards,
I
except
thought it was up in the air too, and that's one of the reasons I just wanted an update for the board. So that was the information I got back, so.
Well,
I
we should be
assume-
taking turns, and Scott recently was on an oral board, and we asked Joe, and Joe said he was available.
I understand.
so you could talk to the chief and see how that plays out for her.
Okay. No other questions on that, and as a reminder, tomorrow night that there is that congressional law enforcement.
Is anybody else calling?
If I get
Can I
out,
get your ride
I'm going.
with somebody?
What's that?
if I
Can I
get
get
out
to ride with
early
somebody?
enough,
I'm going.
Meredith, I definitely go,
The chief did.
but I don't know.
Go ahead.
The chief did send an email and say that she and Dickie Paulus were riding up together, and was anyone else looking to ride? And I sent her an email and said, these were the selectmen who were going. I knew that you were interested in carpooling and that she should reach out to you all.
I would love a ride with somebody, because I'm not driving at night too much, so.
Want to go on the back of a motorcycle?
Well, since I live relatively close to carpooling distance.
I'll ride with you, unless you're no, 5-6.
All right, never mind.
It does,
I rescinded my offer.
I don't really care who I drive with, it's just ride with, as long as I get a ride, that would be great.
I could easily pick Pat up, so I will be glad to pick Pat up. I will text you and let you know when I'm leaving
At a
Plymouth.
time. That'd be great.
Why don't we all try and carpool? Seriously.
If anyone wants to ride with me,
Okay.
I can pick you up too, since I know where you live. John? Joe?
No, because I don't know if I'm getting out or when I'm getting out in
Okay.
Meredith, so
All right.
I don't know for a fact.
That's at 6 PM. What time is our departure date from Tilton?
You'd have to leave like 5:30,
Yeah,
5:20.
5:30, 5:20, yeah.
Yeah.
Get a place to park.
I'll probably pick up Scott. I'll let everyone know when I'm leaving.
Is it the same night as graduation? Is the graduation going on at the same time down there? Anyone know?
I don't
Because
know.
then you'll really have trouble finding a parking space.
If you find out that it is going on, then I'll leave earlier.
Okay.
Send me a text, group text.
Yeah, I'll just text
We'll
everyone.
figure out from
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I can pick up John, I can pick up Scott, I can pick up Pat, boom, on the highway.
Got it.
And
Oh,
we're
that'd
gone.
be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go on.
That's all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Selectman Scanlon?
I do have one other, not necessarily for Jeannie, but seeing as how she's the one here, I do have a question. Can we start moving on Halloween and getting the prizes for, and pumpkins on a stick, and maybe Gail can help us with that?
We're right on top of that.
Do we have a date for that?
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah, I'm sure that's well underway.
Yeah.
And are we doing the zombie stroll?
I mean, I had
Well,
asked-
usually my part is to make sure that we've got pumpkins on a stick and the prizes, and I get the judges all in a row. So that's why I said that. That's kind of what my
okay,
piece of the
'cause
pie
I mean, I had asked
pie
you
was, but
all-
if somebody else wants, you what?
I had asked you all, I mean, I've been through this a few times now. And I'd asked you all a couple of weeks ago if you wanted to do Halloween, you said yes.
Oh, yeah.
I asked the chief to get going on the parade route. I know she's
Yeah.
doing that. We're working on it and all the things that we need to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're on it.
Can we put we
Right.
can put the word out then that Halloween is happening
On the 30th,
on the 30th. More details to come.
Is that a Saturday?
It is a Saturday,
Saturday.
yes.
Do you know what time?
Well,
Can
Yeah,
we-
it's the same as it's ever always been. I actually, if
Order.
I know you were gonna talk about it.
We got a
I would've
month.
brought my file.
Well, we're not going to be here next week.
Right.
So then we only have 2 weeks before the, well, 3 weeks before, 3 selectmen's meetings before the actual event to get the word out to people that we're going to have.
Just put it on the
This.
We'll
website.
put it on the
Start
website, more
talking now.
details to come.
So
And then
that's why I brought it up.
All right.
I'm not
Excellent.
being
Excellent.
critical, I'm
As
just trying
Tim's
to bring it
fixing the
up.
phone numbers, we can add that to the website.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. And candy, maybe? No, just kidding.
Candy bar.
I'm just kidding.
Candy budget, it's
Candy
under
budget's still
miscellaneous.
there.
All right.
Minutes, right.
Are we going, do we have the, do we have?
Well
it on?
done.
All right, all right, so,
We tried.
wait, the time being 7:36. Oh, John wanted something.
Did we, I don't know if we do another or what, but we talked about earlier, Lowe's is okay, or if the, doing the thing with the, around the sign decorating that. Do we want to put any mums or anything out there, or, I mean, I'd volunteer to do it if you put some money in the budget for it.
So,
You know, maybe some mums around.
Smashed.
so one of the things that I am working on as part of the economic development, for the town, part of economic development is beautification. It's really important. So I've already had conversations with Officer Murray, who has all connections in the community. What I would like to do is have an adopt a spot for businesses. So they are responsible for decorating for the holidays and maintaining different sites. She's already reached out and got 3 landscaping businesses who said yes, and actually beyond landscape, she's got 2 or 3 other businesses who've said yes. So I was going to talk to you about economic development last week. The meeting was running over. Wasn't really prepared to talk about it tonight. Don't have my notes with me, but that's one piece of it is the beautification, the adopt a spot. And what I would like to do is have signs made up, that little signs, and I'm sure you've seen other communities that says this sign, this spot adopted by such and such a business.
Mhm.
And give them credit for it, and then they maintain it. That's,
But what about this here? Could
Yes.
Could go up with
Yeah.
that, we'll do it,
Yeah.
because in 2 weeks, it's getting past mums time of that.
no, we,
So, I mean, if somebody could get out there in the next
So we get pine
5-10
trees.
days.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, nice.
Very exciting.
The
And
other
it's
thing,
very exciting to hear you say you're working on economic development
Yes, very much.
instead of the PD.
I know a town that's got some extra pine mulch. So,
the other thing, I don't know if it's too early yet, but, well, I think it was about 2 years ago, we talked about trying to get the businesses to light up the downtown. We're doing something to do that with the lights, Christmas lights on the buildings, you know, and decorate their buildings. Anybody remember that?
Right.
We show pictures of it,
Yeah.
you know, how great it was that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything. to get started on that or how to even start.
I would love someday to have a scarecrow contest like they do in Chester. That is so great down there. They purchased them, that they purchased the skeletons and it's some organization like the Parks Committee or Historical Society that makes them, and then they dress them up significant to what it's
I
them.
was asking a question about Christmas lights and how did you go back to scarecrows and Halloween?
Well, it was an
I
idea
understand
that you
were-
said economic development. It
No,
was just
I
an
was
idea.
asking if there was something that we could
Well,
do about
it's hard to hear way down here. I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
So, all great ideas.
Seriously.
I can't wait to hear Jeannie's report on that.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, all great ideas, but I can tell you from my years of being Main Street Director, you don't want to burn people out.
Yeah.
So you want to have a plan, and you can't do it fast,
So that's why I was thinking,
Right.
if we're looking towards Christmas, I'm afraid
And
to
we've got,
purchase.
and we've got already a plan, an idea for Christmas. And I've already got Officer Mariana, she's already gotten things donated for decorations for the downtown. So I just wasn't
We're
prepared
gonna
to
have to
talk
dub
about
her
it.
economic development queen.
Yeah,
over
you need a
here.
big talker.
I think I suggested that. All right,
Liz Murray. Not Jean.
all right.
Liz-
Anything else?
Lizzie.
The time being 7:41, I make a motion to enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. We expect to be back in the non-public session at approximately 7:55.
It says we're supposed to return at 7:40.
Jessamine second.
I have a second. Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are in non-public session at 7:42.
This conference will now be recorded.
Make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public minutes of September 30th, 2021, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain.
Ruggles, second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes at 8:36 PM.
Did you ask for public?
I'm just gonna make one quick announcement. That watch the town website for details on Halloween festivities on Saturday, October 30th. More details coming soon. Thank you. Mr. Jessman, do you have anything else you'd like to say today?
Motion to adjourn.
The time being 8:37.
Ask for public opinion.
I don't have to ask for public
There's
opinion.
nobody up there, is there? Town of Tilton.
There's nobody on.
It's still in the minutes.
Is there anyone that would like to make any comments before this board? Hearing none. Mr. Jessman,
Again, I say again, motion to adjourn.
the time being 8:37.
Ruggles, second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:37 PM. Feels like
Eastern time.
Eastern time. Thank you and have a nice night.
I inhaled a baby root. That was the coughing and.
So we have to-
I had peanut in my lungs. No kid. And then that brought, I cleared that.
We have to
but
stop
then
our
that
recording.
It's,
brought
yeah.
On my asthma. And it made
There
it
was
feel
a-
beautiful.
Which the.
So I will text you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and night off.
What happens tomorrow?
It's at the police academy, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Stand